Many women across the Middle East and North Africa are simply not free to go where they want. In some places, even leaving the home requires the permission of a male guardian. A new report from Human Rights Watch examines 20 countries where women's movements can be restricted, including Saudi Arabia. The kingdom has gone through reforms in recent years, loosening restrictions on women. While it is legal now for a woman to move out of her husband's home without his consent, he can take her to court and declare her disobedient, making the woman's life difficult. Meanwhile, in Iran, married women require their husband's permission to get a passport and to leave the country. Women are also not considered legal guardians of their own children and need the man's consent to take their children out of the country. In Yemen, Houthi authorities do not allow women to travel anywhere in the country or abroad without being accompanied by a male guardian. The rules mean that many female Yemeni aid workers cannot do their jobs, which in turn cut off women and girls from humanitarian assistance.
She hasn't seen her family for more than 2 months. Afaf Jamil is in her 30s and from Yemen. She used to live with her family in Saudi Arabia. Last May, she came to Yemen on a visit after her father died. But when she tried to return to Saudi Arabia, she was told she was not allowed to travel without a male relative or husband, known as mahram.
I tried everything to get around the rules, to travel with my sister or my mother, but to no avail. Having a mahram was the only way I could travel.
Houthi authorities in Yemen recently issued directives requiring women to travel with a mahram or with written consent from a male guardian. The ruling has been criticized by many rights organizations, including Human Rights Watch. A recent report published by the group paints a bleak picture of the conditions for women in the region. It says many countries in the Middle East and North Africa still prevent women from moving within their own country or traveling abroad without the permission of their guardian.
Authorities often justify these restrictions by saying they are designed to protect women, but in fact they are a violation of freedom of movement, which is a basic right guaranteed to every person in the world. So these restrictions do not protect women, they deprive them of their rights.
Afaf Jamil talks to her children in Saudi Arabia as often as she can. But being a long-distance mother is not easy.
It's painful for a mother not knowing what her children are doing. What are they eating? What are they watching on TV and on their phones? They can watch anything uncensored these days. I try to communicate with them, but talking to each other via a screen is not enough.
Her only hope now is that the Houthi authorities will reverse their decision. Only then will she be able to return to her country and see her children again.
Let's get more with Rotna Begum. She is a senior women's rights researcher at Human Rights Watch, and she joins us now from London. Nice to have you with us. Your organization has looked into restrictions on women's rights in the region before. What stands out to you about this report?
Well, in investigating the situation across the Middle East and North Africa region, what I found was that women have actually made significant gains. In particular, they managed to win the right to be able to obtain their own passports and travel abroad in most countries. But what's really shocking is that there still continues to be restrictions on them, both old as well as new restrictions. So we found that 15 countries still have family laws that require women to obey their husbands, remain in the marital home, and get their permission in order to leave the home, work, or travel. Beyond this, we're also seeing that there are some outliers. Iran and Yemen, in particular, are still insisting on very harsh restrictions. Yemen has a law that basically says everyone is entitled to a passport, but they have a de facto policy that requires all women to show male guardian permission in order to get one.
So there's progress, but too slow coming, in your opinion. Many of the countries covered here have domestic laws or are signatories of international conventions on discrimination against women, which begs several questions, including how they justify these restrictive rules and why they joined international conventions in the first place.
That's right. Almost all the countries in the Middle East and North Africa region have signed up to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And international human rights law is very clear on the right to freedom of movement without discrimination. And yet we continue to see these laws and policies coming into place, some of which are very insidious and not always known to people, others which are quite clearly stated in the law. These restrictions are harming women's rights. We're seeing them not just older restrictions, ones that came in as family laws some decades ago, but newer restrictions. So in the last few years, we've seen the Houthi authorities in Yemen increasingly setting out restrictions, as you've just heard, on a woman not being able to travel without a mahram. But we've also seen other places like the Hamas authorities in Gaza, which also allowed in February 2021 that women, unmarried women, can have their male guardians prevent their travel abroad. And that's an incredibly difficult situation where there's already sweeping restrictions on their movements out of the Gaza Strip by the Israeli and Egyptian authorities. In addition, only 2 months ago in Libya, the Internal Security Agency started to require women who are traveling without a male escort to give their reasons for their travel and to provide details about their previous travel as well. We've already heard that this has actually prevented Libyan women from traveling because of the fact that they don't want to reveal sensitive reasons for their travel to this security agency.
That is Rothna Begum from Human Rights Watch. Many, many thanks to you.
Thank you.